Thank you for indulging us in a short recess. We will begin with Attorney Svakis' first witness.
Yes, Your Honor. At this time, I'll call Jacqueline Storr.
Okay, you come on up to seat number 6 here, and the clerk will swear you in.
Please raise your right hand and state your name for the record.
Jacqueline R. Storr.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony which you shall give in the matter now in hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Jacqueline, can you spell your last name for the court?
S as in Sam, T as in Tom, O-E-H-R.
And how are you employed?
Excuse me?
How are you employed?
I am a first responder. I work for the American Red Cross. I am an instructor trainer. I train people to save lives. And I am the FRG for the 173rd BEB Red Arrow Brigade.
And what do you do in your spare time?
I help Tim with his, with the bar and with his properties and with his trucking company.
In regards to Rock Place, you said you indicate you help him with the bar. Can you tell me what your job title is there?
I guess you would consider me the general manager.
And what duties does that pertain to?
Excuse me?
What duties does that pertain to?
I order, I make sure the licensors are up to date. I work with the vendors. I have a manager that does the scheduling, but if she has conflicts, I'm the one they go to. I'm the one who has access to the cameras. And if there's something that I can't deal with as far as the bar, then I go to Tim.
And in regards to that, do you do the scheduling for the bartenders?
No, I do not.
Do you do the hiring and firing for the bartenders?
Excuse me?
The hiring or firing of the bartenders?
That I do.
And in regards to this, I'm going to focus on some incidents. Were you able to review the complaint that was filed against Rock's Place?
Yes, I was.
And I'm going to go through some of these instances with you. I'm going to start back from June of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
That was a hearing in which this board convened and met in regards to concern about what was happening at Rock's Place. You recall that?
Yes, I do.
Since June of 2020, there was one incident about a noise complaint. Can you tell me, do you have speakers outside the bar?
No, we do not.
Was there a band playing, you know?
We had a DJ that evening,
Okay.
and he started approximately 9 o'clock.
And when the complaint, did an officer come and talk to the bar owners or bartenders at that time?
Before the DJ started, we had an officer come and tell us, you know, he was setting up his equipment there, and he had told us at that time, because he was serving him also child support papers. So we were talking to him then. They talked to us about noise levels, but at the 11 whatever time, we did not hear anything from anybody.
Okay. On September 19th of 2020 is this incident about a noise complaint. Do you recall an officer coming at that point in time?
No.
Okay. But an officer did come earlier and talk about what levels of noise would be appropriate. Is that
Correct.
And also serve the DJ some child support papers?
Yep.
He's not employed by your bar? He's a...
No, he is not.
Okay. In regards to this, have you taken steps to control the jukeboxer in the bar area?
Our jukebox is set lower as far as the top, you know, as far as the loudest you can go. It's set lower than anybody else here in town. And we do have protocol that the bartenders are not allowed to put it full blast.
So try to make sure that there is no noise coming outside your bar from the...
That is correct. And also underneath, the patrons know there's a volume button underneath the jukebox itself. I've had that disabled, so they cannot turn it up.
So they're not able to even turn it?
No.
Okay. Since June of 2020, have you employed security officials or bouncers?
Yes.
And when do you normally employ them?
We have them there on weekends, so Fridays and Saturdays, and if we would have a birthday party or something other than that, then we will have them there also.
And from June of 2020, you've had some bouncers there. Have you recently terminated a bouncer?
Yes,
And that's for not cooperating with police or doing things that he wasn't supposed to?
that was for not meeting our expectations, not following our protocols or our rules, and, yeah, basically not cooperating.
And I'm going to kind of stick with this line of questioning at this point. Are there plans in the future in regards to hiring security or bouncers?
We have talked to three separate third-party people to determine and get a third-party employment as far as bouncers.
And the plan is at this point, is to hire a specific security company, is that correct?
Yes, and it's Wisco, well, it's not Wisco as of last week, it was sold. So it is now a new company, and I do not know the name that it is going to be, but the owner of Wisco has put our name in with the new owner.
Okay. So at this point, you're going to continue to have security on weekends or other
Yes.
parties? Okay. I'm going to go to that, and there's been 6 incidences that were in this report since June of 2020, is that correct?
I do believe so.
One of those is, happened on November 1st, where a bartender actually called to report a fight of 2 males in a bar.
Okay?
Is that right?
I do not have that in front of me, so I am assuming that is correct.
There was no enforcement taken, though, from your understanding of it?
That is correct.
All right. On November 6th, there was an incident in regards to an officer coming to Brock's place based upon a fight that happened next door. Do you recall that?
Yes, I do.
And in regards to that, there was no fight in your bar, is that correct?
No, there was not.
There was only a woman who got dramatic and threw herself on the ground.
Yes.
So since then, there's only been, up until November 6th, that was, the only fight was once in November, is that right?
That is correct.
Now, on December 19th, there was also a report of a complaint of a fight in a parking lot, is that correct?
That is correct.
But when officers got there, there was no fight going on, is that right?
To my understanding, yes.
Can you recall what occurred out there that night?
The 19th. Can I look at this?
Well, I'm just going to say, if you don't recall offhand, that's fine. But would it help if I indicate that there was 2 females had been fighting?
Yes, there was a verbal argument. They were getting a little bit aggressive with each other, so it is our policy now that you raise your voice, you're out. So they were told to leave.
Now, you mentioned you have a policy in place. What kind of policies do you have in place in regards to someone starts an argument?
They start arguing, they are told to leave. Our bartenders are told to stay within the bar just because of liability. But once they have an argument, we have a log so that we can let other bartenders know, and if it depends on, if it was just shouting at each other, they're out for a week. If it was shouting back and forth and, swearing at each other, then it may be 2 weeks. But with each of those incidents, they'll review them with me, and they'll tell me what they think as far as them not being able to come back, and we'll determine whether it's a 2-week a 6-month or permanent ban.
Are there any people on a permanent ban?
We have, at this time, 37 people from June. We have 37 people that are on permanent ban.
And what rates a permanent ban?
Well, the incidents where the two gentlemen were fighting in the parking lot, not only did they get banned, but anybody we know that associates with them. A permanent ban, if it comes to push or physical, if there was an altercation that involved police, they are permanently banned. So any of these incidents, all these suspects that we have been talking about have been permanently banned. They no longer welcome on the premises. If they walk on in, we take pictures and put them so that others understand who they are, because a lot of them don't have real names. They're street names. And I don't know JoJo from Jim Joe to John John, so we put pictures so that not only can I know when I'm looking at the cameras throughout the day or throughout the evening, if I spot one of them, I can get them out.
In regards to this, these pictures, are they put up for and given to all employees?
Yes,
So the employees also know to get them out if they see them?
yes.
In regards to this, on the next incident which comes up is a reported citizen said two females were arguing and fighting, and two women were asked to leave, and they did. That was on January 17th. Do you recall that?
I was not there, but I do recall the incident.
What kind of action did you take against those two women?
Those two women were banned for a month.
On January 22nd, there was an incident in regards to, and it was outside the bar, but an incident in regards to a patron having his keys taken away by his friends, or her friends, who didn't want him to drive.
Mm-hmm.
Do you recall that incident?
I was not there, but I do recall it.
And were you told what happened in that incident?
Yes, I was.
And that was just an incident where the friends were taking keys away from someone who had drank too much?
I personally thought that that was a good idea, and actually sparked me a little bit to remember that we had Safe Ride Home, because we didn't have. So I worked with the Tavern League, and we now will provide Safe Ride Home. So for just instances just as like that.
Now I'm going to go to the bigger instance is what happened on February 20th of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And you were actually called to the bar, is that correct?
That is correct.
You were called to the bar to provide video.
That is correct.
And in regards to this, did you provide the video that was requested by the officer?
Yes, I did.
Now, you've heard the testimony here today. That video was initially provided I think it's from 10 to 11:59. Is that correct?
That is what I have, yes, that is what has been testified.
And do you recall, and then there was another section of video that was provided from 1:26 till 2 o'clock, something along those lines. Do you recall that?
That is correct, yes.
I want to make sure there's a time down, right?
I did not speak to Officer Carlin. I spoke to the other officer. That is the one who gave me the time frames. When I started to get into the cameras, I am not a techie, and I had to call my IT person to get me into the cameras. I asked again what time frames once we got it up there. He gave me the time frames. I said, "Is this correct?" He said yes, and I hit. There's 3 different ways you can record it. I asked him if they wanted the MP3, the XR, whatever. He told me the MP3s, I believe, is the ones that I did record. It only records in 10-minute segments. We had 7 cameras, so We had hours of stuff to put in there, and we waited and waited and waited, and when it was done, it said complete. I pulled it out, gave it to him.
And the next day, or shortly thereafter, officer came back down, asked, or had you come back down for further?
That was not the next day. I no more had gotten home. I live in Schofield, so I drove from the bar, got to Schofield, crawled into bed, and they called me back. Caitlin called me and said that there was more footage needed. I said, okay. I got up, I was still in my pajamas, and went back down to the bar and got them the footage that they needed.
So you did it that night?
Yes.
And you
Within 15 minutes of them letting me know that it was not there.
Okay. So at no time did you not provide information to the police in regards to the video footage?
Correct. I said I was still in my pajamas.
And in regards to this, the incident that occurred, have you been able to review the footage and see some of it tonight?
Yes, I have.
This was an incident that took place out in the roadway, is that correct?
That is correct.
And the police were not summoned because there was no incident in the bar?
That is correct.
In fact, the handgun was only pulled out after he was outside the bar, is that correct?
That is correct. We want patrons as they come through.
I'm gonna go a little bit more. There was also a incident recently on March 4th. Do you recall that incident?
I was not there, but I do recall it, yes.
Who's bartending that night?
That was Jennifer.
Now, Jennifer's bartended a number of these occasions where, and it's been heard by this field, that she doesn't really want to provide a whole lot of information.
No, she does not, and at this time, she has been terminated because it is my expectations that we cooperate completely with the police department.
So, she's been terminated?
She has been terminated.
And is that for failure to give any information the police officer requested?
Excuse me?
Why was she terminated again?
Because she was not cooperating, being, as forgiving, or not forgiving, but giving the information as I am expecting them to do.
So you've taken even affirmative action by making sure that all the bartenders know that they have to cooperate?
Yes. They have no choice. They cooperate or they do not work for us.
Okay. In regards to this, since last 2020, have you guys updated the bar at all?
Yep, we have completely remodeled the front end of the bar. We actually took out the walk-in cooler. We knocked that out. We took the bar and moved it another 6 feet down so that the front of the bar was very congested, and when people get too congested, that's where they wanted to sit because they could see out the window. At that point, I moved the bar down another 6 feet to give them a little bit more room so people were not talking at one another. That's why I turned on the jukebox too, because even the best of friends, after you have a few drinks, if you have to get too close and yell at each other, it just causes, it can cause people to feel that they're in their space. So I've opened up the space to make sure that it's more comfortable to talk to each other and converse with each other. That's why I turned down the jukebox. I put new flooring in, a whole new bar, and have worked with the health department because I am planning on putting food in there.
In regards to this, I'm showing what's been marked as R1.
Mm-hmm.
And is that a picture of your bar and bar top?
That is the new bar top and bar, yes.
And that is something that's been done in the last year or so?
Yes,
And in fact, right behind the bar, there was ceramic floor put in this last year also?
yes, there has.
And R2 shows a picture of how the bar is opened up where the customers sit, is that correct?
That is correct. That used to be, there is about 6 6 feet more. We moved the bar over, so there's about 6 more feet for them from side to side. And before, the pool table back there, the pool table never fit back there. So we took the pool table and moved it back over there so that there's more room up in the front.
And R3 is a picture of the front of the bar looking out towards Third, is that correct?
That is correct. And that is a fireplace I put in there to try to make it more of a calming, peaceful environment.
Now, in regards to this, I know the officers you've seen a lot of footage from your bar tonight.
Yes.
Have you put in new cameras?
Yes, we did have cameras and they were working, but in the last 6 months, I have upgraded. We actually took all the wiring out and rewired all the camera systems so that we have better cameras so that we're able to see them. The one camera that is not working right now is because the neighbors keep shooting it out with a BB gun. We've replaced it 4 times now, but we have upgraded the camera systems, yes.
What other updates have you did out, like say out in the parking lot?
We have put lighting. The back of the parking lot was never lit before, so we put lighting up in the back of the parking lot. And I was watching, there was a concern for people going to their cars and smoking, and it's because they said we didn't have anything outside for them. So I put a picnic table right in front of the doors, right in front of the camera, so that they have no reason to go to their cars to smoke anymore.
Well, exhibits R1 through R3, are those accurate depictions of how your bar looks at this point in time?
Yes, it is.
And in fact, I took those pictures just on Friday, is that right?
That is correct.
I also took pictures of R4. This is a picture of your front door, and I think there's another part of what is on the wall in the front. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, those are pictures of signs that are up, that have been placed up by management, is that correct?
That is correct.
In regards to that, you have one sign that indicates 0 tolerance. Police will be called and you will be unable to return. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then the other picture shows a number of signs that indicate no weapons of any kind we will prosecute.
That is correct.
No alcohol past this point.
That is correct.
No sitting in any vehicles while parking in the parking lot for any reason.
That is correct.
And we reserve the right to refuse service to anyone.
That is correct.
Those are all signs that were put up by you or Tim, is that correct?
That is correct.
And why were they put up there?
To make sure that those that are entering our premises or leaving our premises knows what our expectations are, that we are trying to make sure that we are working within the boundaries of what the ordinances require of us.
Now, I know last year was a little bit difficult with COVID, but having security present, did you also do anything else with patrons who come into the bar?
We wand them.
What do you mean want them?
We have metal detector, a wand. So they're wanded as they come in.
And this occurs on what nights?
On Fridays and Saturdays.
Those are your business nights?
Yes,
And so individuals are wanted when they come in to make sure there's no weapons?
that is correct.
Now, you indicate that if an incident occurs in the bar, police are to be called. Is that a policy?
That is a policy, yes. We have had several meetings, and my expectations is exactly that.
And if the employees don't abide by them?
They will be terminated.
I want to go back just a little bit. One of the officers up here tonight testified about possible miscommunication with one of your staff members who came down to talk. And that was in regards to Jennifer, is that correct?
That is correct.
She came down based upon a call that the police wanted to talk to her.
That is correct.
She wasn't working that night,
No, she was not.
and she was home with the kids?
She was working at her other job, and then when she was done from that job, she came down with her, we had closed by that point, so she came down with her children.
And she came down specifically, not to drink or anything else, but came down specifically to talk to the officer?
That is correct.
I heard the officer indicate that there might have been some miscommunication.
Yes, where I was there, I was not listening to the conversation, but when I left, as I was coming back, I got a frantic call, crying and screaming that her children were being taken away from her.
And that was based upon the officer's discussion with her that night about not cooperating?
That is correct.
And yet, after that, within a month and a half or 2 months, she was then terminated for failure to follow policy?
Yes.
I guess I can go on about a number of these, but would you indicate that most of these incidents that acquired here were all outside the bar?
Yes.
In fact, March 4th, there was a discussion about an incident that occurred. Do you recall that incident?
Which date?
March 4th of 2021?
Yes, I am aware of that incident.
And you know of one of the individuals that called was an employee.
Yes, I do.
And were they an employee?
Yes, they are an employee.
In regards to that, the incident occurred again, more also out in the parking lot, is that correct?
Out in the parking lot, yes.
And once your employee found out, they contacted the police?
Yes.
Now, you do got 7 cameras, or 6 cameras now, with one being shot out.
No, there's 8 cameras and, yeah, seven are working, 1 is shot out again.
In regards to that, how do you display the cameras?
Everybody in the bar can see them. They are on one monitor, a very big monitor. Actually, it's the biggest monitor in the bar, and everybody is aware that they are being watched.
And in fact, the bar top picture has that video in the back of that picture, does it not?
Yes.
And so you now let all patrons know that they are on video, is that correct?
That is correct.
Has the number of incidents appeared to go down based upon prior years?
Yeah. I believe so. The amount of incidents has, with so many people kicked out and not allowing them back in, the amount of incidents has gone down.
I'm going to go through some of these other ones that are on here.
Mhm.
October 17th of 2019, just picking this one. Officers on foot patrol observed a male and female outside the bar. The male was holding a can of alcoholic beverage. Do you recall that?
I recall that it's in that synopsis, yes.
And in regards to that synopsis, do you recall when the officer came?
No, I do not. I do believe that he did come in the following day in the afternoon because we were not open during the time that that incident occurred.
So this did not occur when the bar was open?
No.
And they were outside. Do you have people that come by the bar when you're not open?
Yes, unfortunately, the homeless population knows our password to our Wi-Fi, and they spend a lot of time sitting in the stoop using our Wi-Fi. And I guess I don't have a problem with that.
There was also a medical emergency that occurred back on February 23rd of 20, where an ambulance responded. Can you tell
Yes.
me a little bit about that incident?
With that incident, the young lady came in and with a lot of emergencies. This is what I train my people for. This is what I do. I train people to respond to emergencies. And with this girl, she came in and initially she looked okay, but it was very apparent that she was not what it seemed to be. And my staff, and I will not apologize for this one, will call EMS every time.
And,
Every time.
And they called EMS?
They called EMS, and she, as we talked to her, we found out that she was at someplace else and was overserved, supposedly. I can't say for sure, but by the time she got to us, we were not gonna let her leave in that condition. Same as when the gal passed out from not eating because she's a diabetic and she wasn't eating and she passed out because she was trying to lose weight for her boyfriend. We called EMS then too. I'm gonna tell you over and over again, when it comes to medical emergencies, we will not bypass those.
Now, has Tim told the bartenders to contact the police and have walkthroughs on a regular basis?
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about what that policy is?
At any point, if they feel any insecurities, if they just feel as if they want some extra support, we have the non-emergency number that goes right to the desk, and they are to call and ask for a walkthrough. But most often, Tim is calling at least every other weekend, if not at least once every weekend, to have them go and walk through.
And in regards to that, that's just for them to come through, walk through, make sure that there's no issues going on?
That is correct. We want the public to know that we are cooperative with the police, that we are working with the police department.
And at this point, you again indicate that you're wanting people on Fridays and Saturdays, so there's no weapons involved.
That is correct.
And create a list of 37 people have been permanently kicked out,
Permanently, yes.
and there's others on the list that might be kicked out for a shorter period of time, but.
Correct.
And all of these policies are made known to the bartenders?
Yes.
Is
The
there
book
any
they were talking about is the communication book.
communication book?
Mhm.
And there's pictures that go along with it, so the bartenders know who these are?
Correct.
Are these policies informed to each of the bartenders?
Yes.
I have nothing further.
Thank you. Attorney Alfonso, do you wish to cross-examine Ms. Storr?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. Do you pronounce your name Storr?
Store.
Storr. Ms. Storr, I have a few questions to ask you. You just
Excuse me.
Can you hear me?
I need a hearing aid.
Oh,
Sorry.
you know what, and these don't help. Okay,
Mhm.
then I can be kind of quiet. Okay,
That's much better.
I will speak up. Okay,
Thank you.
Ms. Storr, you just recently testified a little bit about a correspondence book or a correspondence notebook.
Yes.
Okay, and what is the point of that book?
That is, at the end of their shift, they're required to write down, oh, it was a good shift. I did, I made good tips. We didn't have any problems. It's so-and-so's birthday next week. Let's plan and do a birthday party. Next Thursday, Sam is coming in to have a birthday party, or somebody wants to plan a baby shower, just general information that all the bartenders can communicate to each other.
Okay, and you testified, I guess, that you guys have terminated Jennifer Mahomes.
Yes.
Now, does Stephanie still work there?
Yes, she does.
And what about Caitlin?
Caitlin does not.
And what happened to Caitlin?
Caitlin was let go quite some time ago.
What do you mean by quite some time ago.
Well, actually, I shouldn't say quite some time. She was let go, and then she came back, but it didn't last, so she was gone again. So she hasn't been with us now probably for 3 weeks.
Oh, so just 3 weeks.
She was with us, she was gone for, oh my gosh, 6 months. And then we tried to work again, and it's not working, so she is no longer with us.
Okay. And you heard the testimony of Officer Carlin,
Yes,
that Caitlin checked the correspondence log
yes,
for that incident occurring
correct.
February 20th, 21st.
Yep,
And yet,
I checked it also, and then nothing was there.
okay, so you have this correspondence book, and people are supposed to note things, but you wouldn't deny that they don't.
Sometimes they don't, and again, that was Jennifer.
And would you?
And that was
agree
part of her firing.
Would you agree that's a problem?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And so you also indicated that you now have a ban policy. When did that go into effect?
A band policy?
Ban, B-A-N.
Okay, yes. That we put into play from when we last met.
When we,
In June.
June 2020?
Mhm.
Okay, so June 20. Okay, and you said you also fired your bouncer after June 2020?
After, yes,
And which bouncer was that?
the one they call Bo.
Bo. So you fired Bo after 2020. So do you have a bouncer now?
We work with Wisco.
And do you recall what were Bo's skills or training with respect to being a bouncer,
He was post-military.
post-military? And that's it? What,
You gotta answer yes or no, not unless the court reporter can take it though.
Yes,
okay. And so he was post-military? And he was there Fridays and Saturdays?
yes,
Is he the one who got cited?
No.
Okay, that was a different bouncer that got cited for having an
Correct.
altercation. Okay, thank you. And you also indicated now that you've taken some steps to take out the walk-in cooler.
yep.
When did you take all those? You've remodeled the bar.
Let's see. We remodeled the bar in April of 2020, April, May, June, July of 2020.
Okay, and that's when you took out the cooler and gave some extra room.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you said about 6 months ago, you upgraded the cameras.
Within the last 6 months, yes.
And
After the remodeling of the bar itself, then came the cameras.
And you also indicated you improved the lighting in the parking lot. When did that happen?
That happened in the fall
Of
of 2020.
And the signs that Attorney Swakis has as an exhibit, how long have those been up?
These particular signs have been up for approximately 8 weeks, but there were other signs prior to that that were indicating the same things. So these are new signs, but we had signs of this before that.
And when did you start the policy of wanding individuals that come into the bar?
That started after COVID.
After COVID. So, do you recall how long you were closed during COVID?
Through June
June
of 2020, so March to June of 2020.
Okay, so, you indicated that you've made all these improvements, to the bar, certainly quite a few. Would you agree with me, however, that these improvements really haven't made much difference in the incidents or violence that's occurred at the tavern?
I am finding, as far as the incidence of violence, is not so much the bar, but the ability of us kicking people out and them not liking it. And when I see this violence that's happening outside the bar, and it's people are telling they can't come back in, and they're not liking this. But unfortunately, that's the way it is. So I'm not a very popular person with them, but I will continue to keep them out and work. So when the new ones come in, if they have a problem, they're gone.
So I'm a little confused. Is it your position that when you kick people out of the bar, they get angry and then they fight with each other or pull weapons on each other in the parking lots as a consequence?
I am finding that they are not liking us cooperating and working with them. You talked about social media. On social media, we're the cops. We are not spoken well of because we are kicking people out.
Well, and how does that translate to the violence that's occurring in the parking lots? I don't understand. Is there a way to explain that to me?
There's a way to explain. When they start yelling at each other, it starts yelling at each other. We get them out, and then they're upset, and they're escalating outside because they're upset because we're kicking them out and we're not letting them do what they want to do, and then they go back after each other. As you see, it goes out to the street and then comes back in.
So they're mad at you, so they fight outside among each other.
I don't know that they're mad at us. They're not happy with us for kicking them out. That is for sure.
And since June 2020 and all these improvements you've made, you wouldn't disagree that since that time you've had 2 potential weapons complaints?
Mm-hmm. I will agree.
So would you disagree with me that that's a serious problem?
I will agree with you that Wausau has a serious problem with weapons. It's not just rocks, it's Wausau. I listen. I sit back and I listen. And I hear it all over. It's not just rocks, it's Wausau.
Is this the first time this evening that you heard that places like M&R and Christine's don't have these same kinds of issues that you're having?
Yes,
Does that seem unusual to you?
yes, because I have heard different.
Okay. And you indicated to me, or in your testimony, you said the amount of incidents have gone down since you took some particular steps, but you didn't elaborate. Are you able to elaborate on that? can you give me an example? What's gone down since you've implemented various things at the bar?
What has gone down? When I talk to the patrons, I used to get a lot of complaints, and I don't get the complaints anymore. You know, they didn't like this person, or they didn't like how this person was treating them, or how we were running the bar, or this bartender, or, you know, this kind of thing. I don't get as many complaints
From the patrons?
from patrons.
So they're not complaining?
What?
The patrons aren't complaining to you?
That is correct.
But I think we can agree that the city of Wausau, or the police department, is probably complaining.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Mhm.
And you were closed, when did you close for COVID? I guess February, March, whenever?
Well, St. Patrick's Day.
So you were only closed for like a month and a half then?
Excuse me?
You were only closed for about a month and a half then?
So March, what was it, 17th? March, then to April, into May, into June, so about 2 months, 2.5 months, somewhere around there.
And would you agree with me that that would be a explanation for why the number of calls to RACs decreased in the period from 2/23/2020 to 9/19/2020?
I would say if we are not open, we're not going to have any calls. That is correct.
Is it your position that you disagree that there have been weapons issues out in the
Oh,
parking
no,
lot?
I agree that there are weapon issues, absolutely. And I want to get rid of those weapon issues.
Is it your position that it doesn't matter if these things occur in the parking lot as long as they don't occur in the bar?
No, that is not my position at all.
What is your position?
My position is that those individuals need to be held accountable because it doesn't belong here. It doesn't belong here. They need to be held accountable, and I will do whatever I can to make sure that they are held accountable.
Yet it's difficult to be held accountable when events occur like on February 21st, 2021, it's not noted in the logbook and nobody calls the police when that event occurs.
That is
Isn't that
correct. That is why the employee was fired.
I have no further questions.
Attorney Swagus, would you like redirect? Okay. Committee members, any questions for Ms. Storr? Go
Yes.
ahead, Jim.
You said you started wanding customers on Fridays and Saturdays. What time does that commence?
That starts, we don't start seeing people really until about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, so that's when that starts, 10 o'clock at night.
So your bar patrons are mainly late night people, or early morning.
Yep. And we are considering closing earlier now because we don't want to, we'll leave them across town.
Okay, additional questions from the committee? I have a couple. Ms. Storr, how often are you on the premise? Do you work there every day?
I do the book work every day. As far as in the evenings, I am there probably once a week, but I have the cameras hooked up to my iPad and half sleep with them, so I turn it on every once in a while throughout the night.
Okay. And who's responsible for training the bartenders and the security staff?
The bartenders, I have a manager that does train them.
Okay.
I do have regular meetings with them though, so they know who I am, they know what my expectations. And as far as the security will be with the third party and however they train their people.
What direction currently are your staff given when something does start to escalate in the bar?
They are to call 911. Or we have if they have any inkling, we have the non-emergency, the desk, what is it? It used to go directly to Felder. I don't know who, I think it was Olson now. But we have the number that goes directly to that dispatch desk. I think it's what it's called.
Okay.
So they are to do that. If it's something where they don't want people seeing them calling, they're supposed to call 911 and just leave their phone on the bars. And that was directions given from the police department. And once they call, they are to stay in the bar.
Is there any security currently out in the parking lot? Or are they just bouncing things out into the parking lot
Out
and
on-
then letting it take care of itself?
Out on Friday and Saturday, that we will be hiring actually extra security to.
But is there now anybody?
Right now, we have one at the door and one walking through the parking lot.
Okay. Any additional questions from the committee? I have none. Okay. Thank you for that. You can step down. Attorney Svakis, do you have another witness?
Just a moment. At this time, I'll call Timothy Nowacki.
Okay. The clerk will swear in the witness.
Please raise your right hand and state your name for the record.
Tim Naraki, N-A-W-R-O-C-K-I.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony which you shall give in the matter now on hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You are Tim Nowacki, and you own Rock's Place?
Yes, I do.
And you own the license for liquor, is that correct?
Correct.
You've been served this summons and complaint, is that correct?
Yes, I have.
In regards to it, you've heard me deny the allegations contained in this complaint at the beginning of this, is that correct?
Yes.
And those allegations are based upon cooperation with the Wausau Police Department, is that correct?
Yes.
One of the incidents that talked about was there was a lack of cooperation, and I'm reading section 7F. Let me just start, I'm going to go down this list. 7A indicates that you have been a licensed premises, so the subject of 15 complaints or incidents concerning fights inside the licensed premises or in the parking lot. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And in fact, we went through this list, and there is not 15 fights that occurred. It may be 15 contacts, but not 15 fights. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then they indicate on B that there's been a subject of 5 complaints of incidents reported or to have involved weapons or a threat of weapons. Is that correct?
Yes.
And in regards to that, and these weapons have been on the premises. Is that correct?
Correct.
Do you believe that there are 5 now that we went through this?
No, there's a fine line right there. There's a couple that the camera shows, and boy.
On February 20th, that incident involved a firearm, but he did not go, he went and got the firearm out of his car and it didn't come onto your property. Is that
Correct. And one was on the sidewalk. Correct.
There was an incident back on January 6th of 2000 with an individual who said he's going to come back to the bar strapped. Do you recall that one?
Yes.
And in regards to that, your bar tenders shut down and locked the doors.
Yes, they did their job. To protect the community, whoever was in there at that time. And yeah, just for safety measures.
On 8/17/19, there was another incident And that one, individuals were kicked out of the bar, and then they came back with about estimated 8 males with handguns.
Correct.
Do you know if those individuals came up to the bar, or they just stayed outside the bar on the side?
As far as I know, they did not come up to the bar.
So you dispute there was 5 instances of weapons or threats of weapons?
Correct.
And on September 19th of 20, which is number C allegation, it was indicated that you were the subject of a noise complaint. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you've heard testimony of Jackie today?
Yes.
And in regards to that, she indicated the officer came up and talked to him about noise indications. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you recall an officer or being informed of an officer coming about a noise complaint after that?
I remember I was there that night, and like I told him, we have no speakers outside. If the guy was practicing, I was there that night. It wasn't louder in my jukebox. I think it was their excuse to come in and serve him papers, because that's what they did. So they heard he's in town. They probably thought it was gonna be loud. They came in to check it out. We didn't have no officers come back the rest of the night.
Now, Jackie's testified about the jukebox being controlled. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, it was controlled by bartenders. There used to be a switch, like she said on the bottom, that they would touch. Then you turn your back, you turn it up, and they just kind of scatter and think it's funny. Well, we put a kibosh to that because we took the guts out of it and fixed that. That happened like a lot. Somebody plays a song, they're standing right there, they reach underneath there because they're all we're doing it. So we disabled that, and actually we got rid of a lot of music on the jukebox that was inappropriate. So we got rid of a lot of that also. That just wasn't, no.
Would you say that the music now can be heard a block away out by the jukebox?
No, absolutely not.
Part D on 7D talks about the licensed premise involved in a medical emergency where an ambulance responded after when a bar was bombing.
Correct.
Now you're indicating you've heard Jackie testify that that woman had been somewhere else drinking?
She was on something.
And
She only came in at it, like I said, half a beer, and I don't know, it was the best choice to not have something like that die in your bar or anything like that, so we thought it was best interest for sure to call immediately, call for an ambulance because it didn't look good.
now I'm going to get to 7F. And the reason we denied that was because they indicate that the bar failed to provide the City of Wausau Police Department with complete footage requested in the video, and omitting purposely an approximate hour and a half.
Well, they got all their, as it says in that flipboard, the next page, it says right on there, they got all that they needed. There was a miscommunication with daylight saving time and what they wanted. First of all, she had to run back home and then came back again, but like it says, they got all the footage they wanted.
So there was, all the footage, as far as you know, was given to you.
Correct.
Who has access to the video computer system?
Debbie Jackie.
And you don't even have access?
I'm sorry,
No.
what did you say?
Jackie has complete access to all the videos. She sleeps with her phone. So she keeps an eye on all that stuff and records.
Now, there's 2 parts to this, and that's why I want to make sure I'm covering both parts. Section 8 talks about the merit points. Okay? And Section 8 talks about, first of all, on March 4th of 21, you were given a 50 demerit points for an event that occurred. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, that event did not display, even though a bartender thought she might have, there was no firearms found that night. Is that correct?
Correct, there was not.
Other than the bartender saying there may have been, other witnesses indicated that there was no weapons. Is that right?
Correct.
Now, in regards to that, you have any knowledge of whether or not an employee of yours contacted the police?
I do not, but again, I have that non-emergency number. Now I looked at my phone, I got 3 of them in there, but the last one was Lieutenant Olson's desk, and I was calling him whenever we need to walk through something. I call that, whoever answered, whoever's on duty that night. I'd say, hey, if you guys ain't too busy, can you please do a walkthrough? And they're like, sure. And I'm like, well, I need you a time about. I wouldn't tell anybody, but they usually came around 11, 12, sometimes 1, sometimes 2. If they weren't busy, they'd sit in the parking lot, or they'd sit down the street. They're around, and we do appreciate that, just trying to keep things straight.
Okay.
So there ain't any major issues.
February 20th, there was an incident where you were assessed 100 points, is that correct?
Correct.
And one is for failing to summon police, is that right?
Yes,
But you heard testimony and about officers indicating that Jennifer was working that night?
yes,
Is that true?
yes.
Jennifer did not contact the police?
I don't know if anybody called, I don't know who called the non-emergency number, but she did not, or she might, I'm not sure. I'd like to see that report,
Just to answer my questions. She didn't call the police from your knowledge?
no, she did not.
Okay. Now, in regards to this, there also was no knowledge about her even knowing what occurred that night from what the officer said, is that right?
Yeah, correct,
So if she didn't know about it, she couldn't call the police, could she?
correct.
Now, you've heard the things that you've taken, or steps you've taken since the last time you were in front of this board, is that correct?
Correct.
And Jackie testified to security lights outside, is that right?
We've updated 2 or 3 times already with a lot of the stuff.
You put a new security light out in the
Yes,
parking lot?
yes, we have.
All right. In regards to this, there are brand new cameras.
Yes,
In regards to this, you've heard the signs on the doors, exhibit
yes,
four?
they're new, updated, and brighter, and it's pretty obvious what the rules state.
And you take a responsibility to make sure that there are policies in place about people being kicked out of the bar permanently?
Correct.
And would you agree how many people are kicked out?
Right around 39, 40,
Some of those.
and it's growing.
And those are people who are kicked out permanently, is that right?
There's quite a few that are kicked out permanently, yes.
And would you agree that all the bar owners, the bartenders that work for you, know who those people are?
They know very well, they know more than I do, especially with these disruptive people that we don't want around.
Now, you're asking for this commission not to make a report in regards to suspend or revoke your license, is that correct?
Correct?
You're asking that you continue as is because you've made improvements to the bar and security, is that right?
Yes.
And do you agree that you started wanting people?
Correct.
And that was after COVID was over?
Correct.
That's only on weekends?
Yes, or if we have a event, like Jackie said, if we have an event and we're getting busy, and if we don't know these people, we're gonna take measures to make sure that, or we're gonna call, I'm going back to Wisco Security, they sold out. Now the new owner took over, they got our number, and I already called them, and they will be contacting us. I'm probably gonna have one of my guys I had before back, he did a pretty good job. At least, his name was Bruce. And the reason being is when they come, they look at me or look at Jackie or look at my bartenders, and if they're busy, they don't get the straight answer. My security guard is usually outside, doing the parking lot, checking the cars, just like I was doing for the longest time with my spotlight. I'd be standing there, they'd be driving by, checking cars, watching who's coming in, watching who's going, paying attention to the parking lot and the inside, doing a walkthrough, go back outside. He liked standing outside anyway, and he also took care of the inside. As we stated, we don't want our bartenders running outside for every little thing.
What is the current person that you have, what is his training?
Excuse me?
What is the current person you have doing at the training?
He is Wisco Security, they are trained. That's a regular security company up in Merrill. There's also, they have security at downtown at Malarkey's. I forgot their name. They wear red shirts, they're local, they're out in Rothschild. I've contacted them also.
Are you having them come in a very short period of time?
Yes, definitely. I'd rather be closed until we get decent security, I'll tell you that. Because I feel Wisco Security does a good job.
So at this point, you don't think the points assessed that should total 100, you only total 50 at this point, is that correct?
Correct.
And so you're asking that the court not revoke, or this commission not revoke or suspend based upon the points?
Correct.
And you're indicating that since the last meeting, that the ones that they've labeled here do not, or should not qualify for revocation of your license.
Correct.
I have nothing further.
Thank you for that. Attorney Alfonso, do you wish to cross-examine Mr. Naraki?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
Attorney Swakis reviewed with you some of the allegations in the complaint, and I believe he may have misstated, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the complaint alleges that you purposely declined to provide the video footage for that entire event?
Absolutely not.
What's absolutely not?
I did not purposely decline any videos, no, we don't do that.
But I believe Attorney Swakis may have
It might have been worded wrong, but
indicated that we are
I can only do one at a time.
that Attorney Swakis may have indicated at this time that the city believes you purposely did it.
I think Ben said something about that, but no, the gap between the time frame of when they first wanted the video and the second time they wanted video, and it says right in the statement that they got all they needed.
Right.
So,
And as far as the complaint, how I read the complaint is it simply says that there was a fight involving a handgun, failing to report the event to law enforcement on the night which it occurred, and then failed to provide the City of Wausau Police Department the complete footage of the requested video for the incident for the investigatory purposes. So
And
the
if you-
allegation is not that you purposely did it. The allegation is that it was not provided in the initial submission.
it was not asked for. It was from 10 to midnight or whatever it was, and that's what they asked for. That's what they got.
You were here when Officer Carlin
Correct.
testified that he changed and updated that request
Yes, she went,
investigation.
Jackie ran back down there, correct, and gave them the rest of the footage.
The court reporter has to take down.
Oh, yeah, I keep forgetting that, sorry.
One person talks at a time. I'm sorry, I just know how tough it is.
And you don't believe that it seems odd that the video was presented from 10 to 11:59? And then also, in that initial submission, it was presented from 1:37 to 2 a.m.?
That was what they asked for.
When did they ever ask for you to provide a gap? Could you describe that for me? When did they?
There was a gap with daylight savings times, but they originally wanted from 10 to 12, and that's what she gave them.
And he testified that he updated that. So I guess we disagree on what that.
And if you read and it says they did get what they wanted.
Eventually.
Yeah, it just took
Eventually,
twice,
after
it took twice,
returning that.
it took twice for her to get it out of her phone,
Mhm. Okay. So,
not purposely.
is this the first time that you have heard that other bars in your locale are not experiencing the same problems that you are?
They only showed 2 bars. They showed Christine's, what's been closed for months and months and months and months. And M&R's right next to me, so I know what goes on there. And he's about the same calls that I've had. So I
Well,
don't.
no, he hasn't. According to Captain Baton, the calls are not similar.
Well, if you call them that's why I said that about the C thing or whatever. The non-emergency calls that I've called myself and asked for walkthroughs, he don't do that. I know he don't. He don't want to. I do. I care. I call for walkthroughs if they're around. That's why a lot of calls, he's like, give or take.
Well, are
He
you?
did say in the stand, give or take. Well, that could be a big difference of a non-emergency versus a 911 call, which we were told not to use 911 unless it's a dire emergency. Why tie up 911 for a non-emergency call?
So are you saying you disagree with Captain Baton's tavern comparison chart that M&R Station has had 7 fights in the same period and Rox has had 22? You're disagreeing with that? You're saying that they have the same as you?
I was looking at the total.
Well, I'm asking, okay, so they have 57 and you have 77.
Right, correct.
And you
Give or
have,
take, what's their variance of give or take, like you said? Are you considering my non-emergency calls? Are you considering
well,
911?
I think Captain Baton testified as to what was constituted in this already, so I guess I'm not going to testify for him. Do you believe that the new things that've been implemented at the bar, such as new lighting and the signs and expanded floor space, have solved the problems?
No, it has not, but we're working on it, definitely. It's a step in the right direction, because, if they have a more decent, cleaner place to come to, better lighting, and even our interior ceiling fans, them things, they light up the place. Their interior light is even way better. Sometimes they say it's too bright, but oh well. We can adjust that a little bit, but it's nice to have it bright inside. See faces, don't have it in the dark.
And despite the fact that you have implemented new parking lot lighting, put up new signs, expanded floor space, started wanding
Yep.
individuals when they come in, installed a new camera system, and that hasn't really improved the situation. But
Well,
now
the biggest
this time, it will be improved. Is that what your position is?
I'm gonna guarantee this, because also with Wisco Security, they sold out. We haven't had Wisco for probably a year. And I can't believe how fast a year went by with COVID and everything, a person couldn't do anything. But I am pretty confident with Wisco Security, or Permar is the other one. I just thought of it. Permar, they're out of Schofield. That's what they do. They're professionals.
Who hired Bo?
We talked about it. We always talk about whoever we
Who's
hire.
we?
All my staff, Jackie, me, like, what do you think? You think he's mellow enough for us to work? That's like what happened to Marcel. We thought Marcel, he's ex-military also, but he's a little bit of a hothead, which I thought, well, they get along, but he didn't. That's the biggest reason why he has been back, because you get in a bad situation, they don't handle it properly, because they're not trained professionals like Wisco is, or Permar. I even asked Chief Blivens if it off-duty officers. He's like, well, I'll check on that. He never got back to me on that, of course, but I'm sure he might. Hiring off-duty officers, I would have no problem with that. He said, well, you're gonna have to pay them. I'm like, yes, I understand that. That would kind of help set, evidently, when I talked to Chief Hardell about this a long time ago, he said it was possible, but you gotta go through certain things you have to go through. I'd be up for that even also, 1 or 2 days a week.
Well, what qualifications of Bo's were attractive to you when you agreed to hire him as a bouncer?
I believe he bounced in Chicago or Milwaukee at a place, so he did have some experience, and plus, to be honest.
Did you check his references?
He filled an application, which I know we have in file somewhere.
So that would be no.
I did not check.
You had an opportunity to hire these third-party contracted out
Yes.
places prior to today.
I have had them. I have had
Wait a
them.
minute, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, I keep forgetting. Yes, I have.
You did have that opportunity?
We have hired them.
No, prior to now hiring them?
Yes.
You had that opportunity available to you a year ago, 2 years ago?
No, like I said, they were closed, and they were selling the business. The guy's 72 years old. Wisco Security, he sold. It has now bought them. The new owner has taken over.
Okay, and places like Permar, they weren't available to you either?
I didn't think of them until lately, because I'd rather go with Wisco first, because I know the workers. I know pretty much every one of the employees that been to my bar, because they switch off on weekends. One weekend I'll have Kevin, one weekend I'll have Bruce.
Now, Mr. Naraki, you testified a little while ago, something to the effect that the bartenders know more than you do about what's going on.
As far as customers coming in the bar, they know who they are. I'm not down there every day to get to know these people. Some of them don't come in for 2 months, 3 months. My bartender was married to a brother that, so she knows more people than, and who's the bad and who's the good.
I'm sorry, I did not understand what that meant at all.
My bartender Bobby was married to a black man for many years. So between them two, they know who is bad, who's good, who shouldn't be coming in here. They know more majority of people than I do.
I'm not really clear what that
Okay, let me
has to
rephrase
do
this
with
one more time. They know my clientele because they're there. So they go out their list, they know faces, who is who cannot be allowed in. Do you understand? They know these customers are not allowed in.
Okay. So how often exactly do you go to your own bar?
I'm usually there once or twice a week.
Once or twice a week? When?
I try to
When
go there on
it's-
weekends, but I've been kind of busy lately with, ever since COVID restarted, been kind of busy taking care of other things.
So when?
Not that I'm neglecting my bar, but
When do you go?
I usually try to go there on Friday or Saturday nights when we're busier.
How often do you go on Fridays, Saturday nights? Every week? Once a month? Once every 2 months?
I usually try to go once a week or every other week,
Okay.
on a Friday or Saturday.
And do you go in the evening, late at
Yes.
night after 10?
Yep,
You do.
that's when we're busy.
Okay. Yet when a couple of our officers testified when they arrived, you weren't there?
No,
Okay.
I mean, if I have to run down there every time when they're there, I guess, but a lot of times if they do a walkthrough, you know, all they say to me is, everything okay? They don't write that down and say, Tim was here, everything was okay, we did a walkthrough. They don't record that. Normally, they do not. They do a walkthrough, say, everything okay? I'm like, yeah, everything's quiet tonight, everything's good. All right, we'll see you later. And they leave.
So we had quite a bit of testimony from you about the noise complaint that Attorney Swade has asked you about. He asked you to talk about a noise complaint on September 19th, 2020.
Correct.
So, do you believe we're here tonight because of one noise complaint?
No.
Why do you believe we're here?
To get all the stuff to stop, the gun brandishing and the fighting, period.
And you agree you were here in June of 2020?
Yes.
Okay. And so that is...
It seems a little weird that things kind of, it took a little turn for the worse, it seems, lately, which is weird. I don't know if it's because of the COVID or what, or people just getting out, but yeah, I admit we've had some issues. And I think I can credit, or the best thing I can do is, again, like I stated, go back to Wisco Security, because I think that'll help a lot. Again, feel more safe having them around than anybody right now, especially after what I've been through. It seems like every security person I got, the last 3, I've had issues with. You know, and I preferred to be honest with you, I preferred to hire a colored security guard, just because they should relate more to the colored people that come in my bar. Well, that didn't seem to work very well either. So I think I'm gonna very, very definitely go back to Wisco Security or Permar. And if I have to put double security on weekends to tell us, for quite a while, we had no issues.
Tim, make sure you just answer the question so we don't go on a ramble here.
Well, I'm pretty much done with what I had to say, I believe. I'm just telling about this Wisco Security. That's my best bet.
And you don't disagree that the incident of 2/21/2020 was not reported by staff to the police?
I do agree with that, but also the day. Was it a Sunday when we're not open? We're not open on Monday?
Well, when do you think that event should have been reported? What's your real opinion about when
Well,
somebody should have
if
called?
there's any kind of situation, they need to call immediately, whether it looks bad or not. If they look like something's gonna arise, they are told to call. The non-emergency number is there. They know they're supposed to call.
Okay. And now I've heard that you guys have let Jennifer go
Yes.
because she wasn't cooperating.
Many reasons, yeah. That's the biggest one, is non-cooperation with the police.
And she didn't contact the police department about the event?
Correct. That's one of them.
Well, Stephanie was there. What about Stephanie? Is she still working at the bar?
Yes.
So you didn't fire her, you fired Jennifer.
Stephanie was not working. If she was behind the bar that night, the other bartender might have stopped off for a cigarette quick for a minute.
Can you say that again?
If Stephanie was there that night and the bartender walked outside for a quick cigarette, Stephanie wouldn't be behind the bar for a few minutes. So,
But that would be working.
excuse me?
That would be working, would it not?
There was three other bartenders there that night. She stops outside for a cigarette or gets herself a soda or whatever.
Who were the other bartenders?
I believe, was Caitlin there that night?
Was she working?
No. The only one working was Jennifer.
Okay, and were you were here when Ms. Storr testified that there's a policy that the bartenders are told to stay inside because of liability?
Correct.
Okay. So is it your position that your bartender, Jennifer, should have gone outside when all that happened?
I'm not saying she was outside when that happened. I'm saying if she went outside for a cigarette, Stephanie might have went behind the bar to serve drinks, because I saw that was brought up. That's the only thing I can think of. If she walked outside for a cigarette,
Okay.
she would have stepped behind the bar for a minute.
So, but what we're talking about is that Jennifer did not call the police, right?
I do not believe so.
And Stephanie didn't call the police, but Stephanie's still working there at the bar. She didn't get fired. Is that correct?
Correct.
And Bo didn't call the police.
I don't even know Bo was even there that night. I didn't see his name come up anywhere.
Okay, well, we'll let the committee sift through the testimony as to who was there, because I believe it's already been testified to. I guess I'm just going to ask you this last question. Do you believe that it is okay for these things to be going on in the parking lot?
Absolutely not, no. Why would you think that?
Just checking.
No, absolutely not.
But the events of March.
You know, the biggest thing is, for one, getting them out of the building, away from other customers. That's the first step, getting them, you gotta go, we're not serving anymore, you're kicked out. At least get them out of the building. Sometimes they all leave, okay, well, they leave and take all their friends with. Well, there's 6, 8 of them that are leaving, which is fine. That's how you but then if they get outside, it seems, that's where some problems could start. And we should hold back this people and let them people go, but it's like, you guys gotta all go. And part of the problem, I think, is when they're trying to leave and then they're still spouting off at each other. So keeping them farther apart and calling earlier when the problem does start. So there's extra officers there, at least get them out of the parking lot, get them down the road, diffuse the situation. And that's what our objective is.
I have no further questions.
Attorney Swikas, do you wish to have redirect? Committee members, do you have any questions for Mr. Naraki? Jim, go ahead.
How long have you owned that establishment?
I bought that bar in 1995.
Additional questions? I have just a couple. Who hired and trained Jennifer?
She's been working at Hutch's for quite a few years. She worked for us a long time ago. Me and Jackie.
Hired and trained
Hired
Jennifer?
and trained, yeah. Well, a lot of these bartenders don't need training, but you gotta brush up on what we expect and what we want done in our establishment. So there is some more, it's not just come on work. There's things that we require, and was part of the problem with hers from day one.
Okay. And the other question is, did I hear you testify that off-duty employees are allowed to work when they're patronizing the tavern? If they're not on duty and they're there as a customer, are they allowed to go behind the bar and serve people?
Not if they're, of course not if they're drunk, but if they're going behind the bar to grab a soda, serve a drink, or do dishes for the bartender. I don't have no problem with that. There's a licensed bartender, sober bartender on staff. So I know what you're getting at, but there's a, yeah.
I wasn't getting at anything. I'm just curious if off-duty people come to work when they're not scheduled.
They come and drink, and they can go behind the bar, because they'll go back there and do, like I said, do dishes, clean up, wipe the bar down. The bartender's going to the bathroom or something. Everybody kind of chips in, but there is a sober bartender on duty.
But are those folks paid for that work?
No.
Okay. I have nothing else. Committee members, do you have anything? Okay, I don't either, so Mr. Naraki, you can step down. Any more witnesses, Attorney Swagus?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. With that then, the committee will deliberate in closed session, and the committee will then make a decision, issue a conclusion of law and findings of fact, and we will return to this chamber to announce those results. And those will be read here yet this evening. Would someone read the closed session language under item number 3 on our agenda? Pat's got it. Go ahead, Pat.
Closed session pursuant to, I move that we go into closed session pursuant to section 19.851A of the Wisconsin statutes, deliberating concerning a case which was the subject of any judicial or quasi-judicial trial or hearing before that governmental body.
Okay, is there a second to that motion? Second by Herbst. We'll do a roll call vote for closed session. Wadinsky? Herbst?
Aye.
Peckham?
Aye.
McElhaney? I'll vote aye as well. We'll convene in closed session in the Maple Room and then return to this chamber when we're completed with that deliberation.